Hello, this is a little video about the sight reading test in the initial grade piano exam. I'm going to refer to, forgot where my camera was, it's up there. I'm going to refer to this book. Now, I hope you either have a copy of this book or, some photocopies. Um, so, so this is part of every graded exam. The initial grade is quite easy, really. Um, so sight reading means playing a piece of music that you've never seen before. You're given a little time to prepare, about a minute to prepare. So the examiner will open a book. It won't be this book, because then you might have played it before. It'll be something you haven't seen before, and they'll say, I'd like you to play this one, but then they give you time to prepare. Now, the most important rule is, once you've started, keep going to the end. So keep going. The second rule is, do not correct mistakes. Now that seems a bit odd, but for instance, if you realize you've played a wrong note, don't stop and play the right note, just move on to the next note. Because what you're doing is you're developing the skill of keeping going even though you make a mistake. Now, with sight reading, most of us do make mistakes, so don't get too stressed about it, don't get too worried. Just think you may well make a mistake. If you don't, that's great, but if you do, it doesn't matter. Okay. Now, so those are really the first two rules. One, keep going. Two, don't correct mistakes. Now, the third rule is that the most important thing is timing or rhythm. So, in other words, if you look at number one in these tests, it should go like this. So now, so in the left hand we have the rhythm of dum, 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 da, da, dum. And then in the right we have dum, 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 dum. Now, it's better to play some wrong notes but get the rhythm right than the other way around. So if I did this, then I played several wrong notes, but I got the rhythm right. It's better to do that than do this. This time I'm going to play all the right notes, but I'm going to get the rhythm wrong. Okay, so all the notes were correct, but the rhythm was wrong. So in your preparation time, well, actually, okay, so that's the third rule. The next thing I want to say is that in the initial grade, the piece will either be in the key of C major or the key of D minor. So that ties in quite nicely with the scales that you have to learn for the initial grade, C major and D minor. And the hands will, if it's in C major, the hands will always be in this position. So right thumb on C, left pinky on C, as if you're about, as in each hand as if it's about to start playing the scale. So it's a range of 5 notes. You won't have to move your hand about at all during the piece. It'll stay in that position. And if it's in the key of D minor, the fingers will be here. So right thumb on D, left pinky on D. In either case, it will only be white notes that you have to play. Now, there are two ways of telling which position you're in. One is to look at the first note in each hand. So for instance, in number one in the book, the left hand plays first, and the first note is D. Grizzly bears don't, it's D. and it says finger number 5. And in the right hand, the first note is A, face, F, A, finger number 5. So that gives us our position, the D minor position. The other way of telling is to look at the beginning and see whether there is a flat sign in the key signature. So the key signature is the bit after you get the treble or bass clef, then you get the key signature, if any, and then you get the time signature, 2-4 or 4-4. So if there is a key signature of 1 flat, then it is in the key of D minor, it's this position. You won't have to play any flats, but that tells you that it's in this position. If there isn't a flat sign, if there's no key signature, then it's in C major and it's at that position. Okay, so the first thing you should do in your preparation time is decide which position. Is it the C major position with no flat in the key signature, or is it the D minor position with a flat in the key signature? Now, once you've done that, get your fingers in position and try to keep them there while you look through the whole piece. You can try it out if you like. Not a bad idea first just to look through it without trying it out. Now, there are a few things you're looking for. So, you're looking for the rhythm. So, basically there'll be 3 sorts of notes. There'll be the crotchets, which are 1 beat. There'll be quavers, which will always be in a pair if you get a... So you might get 2 quavers, and you might get a minim. I know you can't see this very well, but I'm looking at this one now, not the same one I was playing before. So here we have a crotchet, pair of quavers, crotchet, crotchet, minim. Then we have minim, quaver, quaver, crotchet, minim. So, and remember that each quaver is half a beat. So the way I would count this is 1 and 2 and 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 1 and 2 and. So notice I'm actually counting in quavers. I'm counting 1 and 2 and. But I only play on the and when I have quavers. The second quaver is the and, but I'm counting all the ands to make sure I stay in time for the rest of it. So, so think about that during your preparation time. Also, basically then you look out for steps and skips. So you think, okay, is it the next note up or down, in which case it's the next finger up or down? Or is it further? So if it's a line to the next line, then you skip 1 finger. If it's a line to the next but 1 space, then you skip 2 fingers. Or if it's a space to the next but 1 space, or a line to the next but 1 line, like here, then you're going from 5 to 1. Or possibly 1 to 5, but it's most likely to be 5 to 1. Okay, so looking through all that, try and hear it in your head, focusing on the rhythm. So if I'm looking at this one, number 3, I know this is not very clear, but you can sort of see. So I would, now, the way to get your rhythm secure is to count yourself in, including the ands. So if I'm going to play this, I think 1 and 2 and 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 then off. We don't pause between the 2 hands, so it should all sound like one piece. So when we've held that last right hand note for the exact number of beats, we immediately, on the very next beat, we play that. So, as I say, in your preparation time, focus more on the timing. Imagine it's a clapping exercise. Dum, da, da, dum, dum, da, 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 like that. Then, when the examiner asks you to start, they're not expecting to hear a note that moment because they're expecting you to give yourself 2 bars count in. You can count yourself in out loud if you want to, but you don't have to, but do count yourself in. They do want you to start, you know, as soon as you've counted yourself in. But for instance, this one, number 3, let's go through it. So I've found my hand position, which is this. I've prepared, I've thought about the timing. So when the examiner says start please, I will say to myself 1 and 2 and 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 2 and 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and off. And with the last note, give it the exact number of beats and then come off on the next beat. Don't just sort of leave the note hanging. I started a bit too loud there. It does say P for piano. If you can put in the dynamics as well, the loud and quiet, so much the better. Don't worry too much about that. It may just say F or P at the beginning and then that's all you do. Or you may find that one hand needs to be loud and the other quiet, as in the one I just did. You may also find that some note, like in the next one down, number 4, some notes are marked as staccato and some have a slur over them marked legato. Again, don't worry too much about that. It's more important to get the timing right and then, if possible, the notes right. But if you can get these other details in as well. So I'm just going to do this one, number 4 now, as an example. So this is 4 beats in a bar, but otherwise same sort of thing. So no flat in the key signature. It must be C, key of C major position, which is that. So I look through it looking for skips. There are more skips in this one. In fact, if you look at that first bar, it's all skips. They're all line notes, so there must all be skips. Anyway, you may or may not have a copy of this, but this is just an example. So I get a minute to prepare. I think about all the things I've talked about. Then the examiner says start please. So immediately I think 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 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 off. If I'm confident, I will probably take it faster than that, like 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 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 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Just remember that with the longer notes, keep counting the ands, because the thing that a lot of people do wrong is if they get a minim, they don't make it long enough. So this right hand part should go 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and so on. But a lot of people, because they're not counting the ands, they make the minute, they might do this. So they sort of forget to count. So that's why keep counting very carefully, especially when you have a note that's 2 beats. It might seem very long, but you know, but as long as you're counting correctly, it won't be too long. Okay, I think that's all I wanted to say about this. I hope that's of some help. If you haven't got the copy of the pieces I was talking about, don't worry, you can apply these principles to whatever you're using for practice. Okay, that's the end of the video.